Remote viewing was a sanctioned program shared by U.S. intelligence agencies for decades. It was designed for spying on the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War. But the program also revealed information on alien presence on Earth and on Mars. Let's explore. Hi everyone, and welcome to Project Bluebook, where we explore all things unidentified. I am Thor, and thanks for tuning in. Remote viewing, or RV, needs a quick introduction before we dive into the use case studies. It is not to be confused with psychic powers, connecting with the dead, or any kind of fortune telling, although it does cut somewhat close. RV is a controlled scientific method that has shown promise in the field of extrasensory perception by way of affecting or controlling remote objects, describing geographically distant locations, enabling precognitive awareness to see what may transpire in the future, or conversely, may already have happened in the past. Perhaps most astonishingly, RV can describe remote places in a remote time to a level of incredible accuracy. And think of this, with the subject being viewed reacting to the viewer's quote-unquote presence. It started with the pioneers in the field of parapsychology and psychoenergy research in the 1950s and 60s, people like Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff, and through the Stanford Research Institute, it acquired scientific discipline and recruitment of talent, including Courtney Brown, Joseph McMonigle, Paul Smith, Lynn Buchanan, and almost 50 other attached to the program, in addition to Ingo Swann. By 1970, the CIA knew the Soviet Union was deep into parapsychology research, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on it, and was already conducting remote viewing as a method to spy on sensitive U.S. military installations. The U.S. needed a response quickly. It was the recommendation of the RAND Corporation in January 1973 that a program be set up to study and implement remote viewing as a spy tool. Stanford Research Institute was contracted by the Defense Intelligence Agency to conduct RV training and implementation of RV as a spy tool. Ingo Swann was a leading remote viewer in the early days. Born in Colorado in 1933, received his BA in biology in 1955, and joined the Army before the Korean War. He served on the staff of the commander of the Pacific Fleet, General I.D. White, and between 1958 and 69, he worked for the United Nations. By 1970, he entered parapsychology and psychoenergetic research as a collaborator with the Stanford Research Institute. Between 1974 and 1995, the joint intelligence agencies of DIA, NSA, CIA, Army Intelligence and Security Command, and Army Materiel Systems Analysis Activity all tapped into SRI's remote viewing program. Located at Fort Meade, Maryland, the program went through several reincarnations and names: Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Dragon Absorb, Sunstreak, and finally Stargate, the name that has stuck to the RV program ever since. The first breakthrough was reported as early as 1973, when Ingo Swann, under the guidance of Dr. Gertrude Smidler, using only his mind, was able to cause controlled temperature changes in a sealed, distant vacuum area. Time reported on this as a breakthrough discovery that a human mind was provably able to remote control matter, declaring Ingo Swann as more dangerous than an atomic weapon. But what is remote viewing as a controlled process? If you forgive an oversimplification, here goes. A remote viewer is given a minimum amount of information: a name of a person, a picture, geographic coordinates, and through meditative focus, pen and paper scribble, the remote viewer freehands drawings, words, and impressions that come to mind to accrue a picture or a series of pictures, words or sentences that deliver information on a target item, location, or name. Simple, right? In July 1974, remote viewer Pat Price was asked to describe what was located at a suspected underground nuclear testing site in the Soviet Union, working from the geographic coordinates provided in degrees, minutes, and seconds, which is called a coordinate remote viewing. Pat described a view from the rooftop of a 3-story brick building. It was a beautiful sunny day, and to Pat's astonishment, there was this gigantic crane moving over his head, over the building, on tracks that seemed to be on both sides of the building. Pat was able to change his perspective to an aerial view, looking down, describing people on the ground having difficulty welding giant gores that looked like orange peel. The SRI remote viewing team was later told this was a Soviet nuclear test facility called Semipalatinsk, and 3 years later, when satellite images confirmed the building, the giant crane and huge metal curls were confirmed on site. In 1972, Ingo Swann thought he made a mistake when he remote viewed NASA's Pioneer 10 flyby of Jupiter when he described rings around the planet. Swann and the SRI team thought he might have read Saturn by mistake, but a few weeks later, Pioneer 10 flyby did confirm Jupiter has rings, only visible with later technology telescopes. In the mid-70s, as a test, Joe McMonigle was given a target person's name and picture, not knowing it was a scientist at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories, Northern California, working on an electron accelerator. Joe was tasked to track his whereabouts over 24 hours. In addition to describing the lab facilities on the inside, Joe kept talking about giant windmills surrounding his subject, which is 100% accurate. We're starting to see the military intelligence implications and value of the RV process, aren't we? In 1979, Joe was put to work to evaluate a giant concrete building in northern Russia. The CIA had satellite photos of it, but they wanted to know what was going on inside. Joe was able to determine they were building a nuclear submarine, double-hulled, and he also saw that a tunnel was being built to connect to the ocean and would be completed in 4 months. By January 1980, he had been proven right when the Soviet Union launched the world's largest submarine into the ocean through an underground tunnel in northern Russia. While interrogating a suspected Soviet spy in South Africa, Joe McMonigle again was asked to give a read of the interrogation, and he kept pointing to a calculator at the Soviet spy's hideaway, which turned out to be a communication device with his KGB handlers. Jimmy Carter was once asked what he deemed the strangest event of his presidency. It wasn't seeing a UFO, and he did see one. It wasn't the Iran hostage crisis, no. It was remote view discovery of a downed U.S. aircraft and its crew, rescued and recovered with the assistance of the Stargate remote viewing team. It's hard to put statistics on this because it's not easily quantifiable, the detail, accuracy of the drawings and so on. Yet, it's been stated that the accuracy and reliability rate of remote viewing is on par with enemy infiltration and counter-espionage. In other words, RV as a tool is as effective as having an actual spy on site. In a book written by Tunde Adonrase about Joe McMonigle, with forwards from the renowned remote viewer Dr. Paul Smith, in the book, Joe discusses how he was able to identify new information regarding several UFO events, including the strange lights witnessed by the crew of Japan Airlines in 1987 en route over Alaska, validating the experience of Travis Walton in Arizona in 1975, and confirming what happened in Rendlesham Forest in 1980 by providing detail no one ever knew of. Ingo Swann and other remote viewers have gone on to publish books about remote viewing. They have stated they saw structures on the moon, as well as the presence of aliens and UFOs. Daz Smith, a remote viewing advocate, describes a UFO sighting in Puebla, Mexico on December 21, 1994, through a remote viewing he performed. Daz knew the target only by its number, yet he was able to describe the object's shape. He drew a picture of it concluding this had to be a vehicle of some sort because he sensed its movement. He also speculated it came from inside a larger vehicle through a tube. This is what he drew. He wasn't shown the UFO photo until after the remote viewing. And this is not even the most astounding story. The most astonishing remote viewing was actually performed inside Stargate. It centered on a remote viewing of Mars 1 million years ago. Those were the instructions. And we should ask ourselves, why pick that target and why pick that time? They were the coordinates of the Cydonia region, Richard C. Hoagland's site of ancient monuments on Mars, including a pyramid, a face, and a city. The remote viewer did not know which planet he was viewing, yet, as you can see from the actual transcript, he almost instantly mentions a pyramid. He goes on to describe the pyramid as towering over the landscape and that more giant structures could be seen nearby. It was the scale and size of these structures that stunned the viewer, including an obelisk and other megalithic structures. He described a bleak yellowish atmosphere, underground tunnels that looked like roadways, and he saw aqueducts and waterways. Then he described a dust storm, repeatedly stating what he was seeing was a geological catastrophe. He described the tail of a comet that a planet is traveling through, causing the catastrophe. Let's try to visualize this epic event. He described seeing beings, tall and slender, dressed in clothing that didn't look familiar. He repeated they were incredibly tall and thin, and they were inside caverns or structures that protected them against the dust storm. Many of them had already left, gone to other worlds to find a new home, describing a planet with lots of vegetation and active volcanoes. Perhaps it was Earth. Their time was running out on this planet. All they could do was wait. The remote viewer used the word hibernate until the others returned to get them. And here comes the mind-bending pinnacle of this remote viewing. The subject of this viewing, the tall, slim being, 1 million years ago on Mars, seems to become aware of the remote viewer's presence, describing the exchange as follows, quote, "Doesn't know who I am, thinks I'm a hallucination or something," end quote. While Stargate was officially shut down in 1995, it may still be in operation as a black program. Meanwhile, the private practice of RV continues. It can be taught, it can be learned, and many have pointed to its already proven usefulness in UFO research. So, who can learn it? It's been described akin to musical talent. Many of us have it in abundance. All of us can sing a tune. It can be taught, honed in, and perfected. As to how it works exactly, no one, not even Ingo Swann, can answer that question. You can watch and listen to this and other podcasts on Project Bluebook, where we explore all things unidentified. Each day, let's practice compassion and kindness. And please subscribe. I am Thor, and thanks for listening. See you next time.